village. Why then do you live back in the days? Don't be left behind. Join the new normal of digital world. Let radio and television be at your fingertips. Get news and current events, entertainment, sports, kiddies programs, and more at your beck and call on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Just visit and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on all social media platforms. Then you are a global citizen. Al-IyamoyeTv and radio, voice of the voiceless.
It is essential to be up to date on happenings around you, and to make that easy for you, ladies and gentlemen, we present Freshlight, where we bring fresh newspaper headlines to the limelight. Mondays to Saturdays, 8:30 a.m. to 9 a.m. on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Watch, like, subscribe, and make sure your notification is activated on our YouTube channel. You can also like and comment on our pages on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. The 14th day in the month of September 2023. Good morning to you wherever you're watching us live on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Welcome to Freshlight on this episode, and this is where we'll take you through a couple of headlines and some stories and our tailings this beautiful morning. As usual, my name is Modupe, Akinyosoye. And of course, I have with me some newspapers this morning. I have the Nation newspaper, I have the This Day newspaper, I have the Vanguard newspaper, and I have the Punch newspaper, where we will be perusing and see to keep ourselves updated on happenings around us. We'll kickstart with the Punch newspaper this morning. Let's get to see what we have on the front page of the Punch newspaper published this morning. We'll start with the biggest headline written right on the front page that says ASU parent protest as more varsities hike fees. You'll definitely get that on page 2 in the Punch newspaper. Away from that, you also have from the front page of the Punch, manufacturers slash output and jobs over forex crisis. That on page 9 in the Punch newspaper. Away from that, on slain soldiers, over 6,000 family members to get insurance claims. You have that on page 32 in the Punch newspaper. And also, federal government predicts heavy rainfall and flooding in 48 towns. That update on page 7 in the Punch newspaper. Away from that, Libya flood kills 6,000 victims buried in mass graves. That rather sad incident. You get the details on page 26 in the Punch newspaper, and of course you also get to see the pictures right on the front page of the Punch. Away from that, we also have land grabbers' violent return to Lagos leaves trail of blood and death. That on page 3 in the Punch newspaper. One feared killed as flood wreaks havoc in Lagos estate. Page 4 captures that very story. Naira weakens to 950 naira per dollar. Forex scarcity worsens. Page 35 captures that very business update. And quickly going through the Punch newspaper, let's get to go through some of the stories from the Punch newspaper. All right, we'll start with this very story on ASU and parents' protest. ASU and parents protest as more varsities hike fees. This comes with double riders. Prevail on universities to reverse fee increase. PTA tells Tinubu fears mass dropout. Lecturers slam federal government over poor funding. Students will take to cybercrime. Parents warn. As tertiary institutions across the country begin a new session next week, the Academic Staff Union of Universities, parents and students started protests as more varsities continue to hike their fees amid a worsening economy. ASU, as well as the associations of parents and students, warned about the likelihood of mass dropouts of students following the hikes in fees by the universities across the country. The union was worried about the development, just as apprehensive Parents expressed concerns over the implication of the fee hike for their children and wards in public tertiary institutions. And the national president, ASU, Professor Emmanuel Shodeke, frowned on the fee increases, noting that the university is not a profit-making commercial center. From the Punch, ASU parents protest as more varsities hike fee. Away from that, also moving to the business page of the Punch newspaper, Naira weakens to 950 Naira per dollar as forex scarcity worsens. The Naira fell further to the dollar on Wednesday after closing at 950 Naira per dollar at the parallel market. Bureau of the Change operators who spoke to the Punch said the Naira, which had earlier closed at 930 Naira per dollar at the close of operations on Tuesday, was bought and sold at 935 Naira per dollar and 950 Naira per dollar on Wednesday. An investor and exporter forex window, the Naira closed at 758.12 per dollar on Wednesday from 742 Naira 10 kobo on Tuesday, according to figures obtained from the FMDQ, the official trading platform. A BDC operator, Yusuf Karim, who spoke to the Punch, said, and I quote, "We commenced trading at 930 Naira per dollar in the morning and it closed at 950 Naira per dollar in the evening. The Naira has been scarce. We don't know what is happening." The rest of that business report you get in the business page of the Punch newspaper. Naira weakens to 950 Naira per dollar as forex scarcity worsens. Away from that, we also have this very update that says, total blackout as Nigeria's power grid collapses. There is a widespread blackout across the country following the total collapse of Nigeria's electricity grid early Thursday morning. It was gathered that the grid collapsed totally around 12:40 a.m. on September 14, 2023, leading to the massive loss of supply to power distributions nationwide. And multiple sources in the power sector, as well as electricity distribution companies, confirmed the development to a correspondent on Thursday morning. The Enugu Electricity Distribution Company PLC issued a notice titled Notice of Total System Collapse on Thursday. Total blackout as Nigeria's power grid collapses. The Punch newspaper punches that out this morning. And also we have a story from the Gateway State on electricity, the power sector. Disco restores electricity to Ogo community after Punch report. Residents of Ogijo in the Shagamu local government area, a boundary community between Lagos and Ogo State, are currently excited as electricity supply was restored to the community following a report by Punch Metro on April 7, 2023. It was gathered that electricity was restored on the first week of September 2023 after the Seido 1 and Seido 2 communities of Ogijo were disconnected in February 2022. Punch Metro had reported that the blackout forced some residents, especially artisans, who need electricity for their work to relocate from the area. And while those who had no choice but to remain in the community were spending a fortune on fuel to power their generating sets to carry out their commercial activities, and others accepted their fate, urging the government to intervene. Disco restores electricity to Ogun community after Punch report. The Punch newspaper captures that story. Away from the Punch, let's get to see what we have in the This Day newspaper. All right, from the front page of the This Day newspaper, you have headlines and stories. History as NUPRC picks 42 winners for its gas flare commercialization bid round. You have that with the rider, commission contract KPMG as partner for award implementation process. You have all of that story on page 16 in the This Day newspaper. Sanwo-Olu swears in 37 commissioners and special advisors. Page 35 captures that very story. On NYT, Al-IyamoyeTv, United States Deputy Treasury Secretary, to visit Nigeria to bolster economic ties. You have that on page 16 as well in the This Day newspaper. And also from the front page of the This Day, King Gibe to Wike, you have no executive powers, must operate under National Assembly supervision. Page 14 captures that very story. And of course, you get to see a picture of the visit. Nabi visit Bagudu, the founder and principal partner, the next year advisory, Mr. Patrick Okibo, CEO, Nigerian National Advisory Board for Impact Investing, Nabi, and Ms. Etenore Glover. You get to see the picture of them on the front page of the This Day newspaper. And going through the This Day newspaper, we get to see this very story on NYT. Al-Iyamoye, United States Deputy Treasury Secretary, to visit Nigeria to bolster economic ties. According to the New York Times, the visit comes as we'll start with the Joe Biden administration is dispatching the United States Deputy Treasury Secretary, Wale Al-Iyamoye, to Nigeria next week as it seeks to deepen economic ties with Africa and counter China's influence on the continent. According to the New York Times, the visit comes as President Bola Tinubu embarks on reforms to revive the country's sluggish economy and months after Biden had pledged to deepen the U.S. involvement with Africa with an investment of more than $50 billion over the next 3 years. The United States has been trying to make up lost ground in the geopolitical contest with China and Russia to cultivate relations in Africa. Nigeria, which is Africa's largest economy, is key to those efforts. The Biden administration believes Nigeria, a democracy that is rich with natural resources, has the potential to be an economic anchor for the United States on the continent. NYT, Al-Iyamoye, U.S. Deputy Treasury Secretary, to visit Nigeria to bolster economic ties. The This Day captures that story. Away from that, we also have this very story from the This Day. Tinubu's reapproachment with UAE, key economic diplomacy win, says Omoagege. Immediate past Deputy President of the Senate, Senator Ovie Omoagege, has commended President Bola Tinubu for the initiative to restore the mutually beneficial economic relationship between Nigeria and the United Arab Emirates, describing it as a key win in economic diplomacy. And reacting to President Tinubu's meeting with the leadership of the UAE on his way back from the BRICS summit in India, Omoagege, who is also the Delta State governorship candidate of the All Progressives Congress, APC, said restoring and strengthening mutually beneficial economic relationships is pivotal to the return to sustainable development. Tinubu's reapproachment with UAE, key economic diplomacy win, says Omoagege. Away from that, we also have a story from the Niger Delta. Group urges federal government to accelerate infrastructure development, declare emergency on East-West Road. With a rider that says demands government publish forensic audits on NDDC. A group, the Niger Delta Youth Supreme Governing Council, NDYSGC, has charged the federal government to accelerate development of the region in order to make up for the massive infrastructure deficit in Niger Delta. The group also called for the declaration of a state of emergency on the East-West Road, urging government to complete the project before the end of 2024, even as it urged the newly appointed Minister of Niger Delta Development, Mohammed Momo, to close the development gap in the region. And the group gave the charge in a statement jointly signed by the President General, Secretary General and Director of Media and Communications, Comrade Doyi Willie Efemena Umukoro and Nnamdi Ofoye, respectively, in Abuja. From Niger Delta, group urges federal government to accelerate infrastructure development and declare emergency on East-West Road. And also we have this story from the This Day. Tinubu approves payment of slain soldiers' insurance with double riders. Army Chief Lord President pledges loyalty to Constitution, says military operations curtailed Boko Haram, ISWAP, and charges troops to remain resolute. President Bola Tinubu has approved the payment of Group Life Assurance Scheme owed families of Nigerian Army personnel who died in action. The Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General Tawhid Lagbaja, made the disclosure at the ongoing Combined Chief of Army Staff 2nd and 3rd Quarter Conferences 2023 holding at the Nigerian Army Headquarters, Command Officers Mess 1 in Asokoro, Abuja. And speaking while declaring open the event, Lagbaja lauded the federal government for directing the payment of Group life assurance scheme owed the families of Nigeria Army personnel who died in action. Tinubu approves payment of slain soldiers' insurance. The Day captures that very story. And before we move on to other newspapers, let's quickly dash into our commercial room. We'll be back on Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. Stay with us.
Thousands have been disappointed severally in their bid to see greener pasture abroad. To those quack in the traveling agency business, it is a rocket science. That is not our case at Taustaf Travels and Tour. We have in-depth details on how to successfully, without stress, help you process and secure your visa to anywhere in the world. Do you want permanent residential visa, visiting and tourism visa, student visa to places like Europe, America, Asia, Africa? It's no big deal to us at Taustaf Travels and Tour. Our years of experience and expertise speaks volume for us. Let's process and secure visa for you to UK, USA, and Canada within a twinkle of an eye. We offer Hajj and Umrah services to our Muslim faithfuls. What are you waiting for? Consult us at number 9 Taustaf Central Mosque, Sholanke Street, behind Laroy Hotel, Abiola Way, Abeokuta. 0802 733 0900 or 0806 578 4060. Stop wasting money. Pay for peace of mind. Talk to Taustaf Travels and Tour.
Gbogbo aláfẹ́ tó gbayì tó fẹ́ wọṣọ yìí ṣoge tó bágbàmú ló ń kọjá lọ sí House of Zayana. House of Zayana, the name I know when we talk of top-notch fashion, quality materials and class. House of Zayana, lẹ́tí máa rójúlówó Turkey wears, Egypt and Malaysia clothing, Dubai, àwọn designer bags lóríṣiríṣi, àwọn ìtẹ̀lẹ̀ bàtà tó jiná tí wọ́n fawọ́ original ṣe, àwọn aago kajọ́ tó ń ka wákàtí ọjọ́, designer sunglasses and perfumes, pẹ̀lú àwọn gbogbo nǹkan tóbìnrin àsìkò fi ń gbafẹ́ lò gbà. Mo débẹ̀, ojú mi ń ṣe kámi, èmi ni ó rà, èmi ni ó mú. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin mùsùlùmí ẹlẹ́sìn tẹ́ gbòógì gbọ́n pa fashion tẹ́ wá nílò jàlábíà, hijab àti àbáyà lóríṣiríṣi. House of Zayana lẹ́ ò ti rí gbogbo ẹ̀ rà. House of Zayana wà ní 52 Ọlọ́run ṣògo road adjacent Redeemed Church Agape Parish Ọlọ́run ṣògo Abẹ́òkúta. Lórí Instagram House of Zayana 08165688618. House of Zayana, ilé ìtajà tá a ti ń tojúlówó aṣọ àti nǹkan aṣaralóge tí ń gbéni níyì.
Still on to Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio, and still going through some of the stories we have in our dailings this morning. We pick up the Vanguard newspaper to see what we have on the front page of the Vanguard. Forex scarcity sends Naira tumbling to 913 Naira per US dollar. This comes with several riders, and you get the details on page 4 in the Vanguard newspaper. Away from that, 100 days, economic reforms have made life more difficult, says financial expert on page 19 in the Vanguard. Nigeria accounts for 30% global malaria burden, says ministers. Page 13 captures that very story. MTN raises concerns over vandalism of sites and infrastructure in Southeast. You get the details of that on page 11 in the Vanguard newspaper. IGP declares killer of DPO Bako in Rivers wanted. Page 6 captures the details of that very story. Also, from the front page of the Vanguard, academic records. We graduated in Chicago Varsity in 1979. Tinubu's classmates speaks out. Page 9 captures the details of that very story. Ransom from kidnapping, fueling terrorism and banditry. National Counter-Terrorism Center, revealing that on page 4 in the Vanguard newspaper. And also, you get to see on $600 million trapped funds, Tinubu directs CBN to meet foreign airlines. Page 5 captures that very story. And also, Abidjan Lagos Highway, ECOWAS moves to a perfect design for project. Page 9 has the details on insecurity. Niger to reopen 11 public schools closed in 2021. The details on page 10 in the Vanguard newspaper. Sport headline on the front page of the Vanguard says, Nigeria set to face Senegal, Egypt or Ivory Coast in same group. That's AFCON 2023. Page 36 captures the details of that very sport story. And on insecurity, police meet Khan in Kaduna. You get to see the picture of that. Kano State Commissioner of Police, Mr. Musa Yusuf Garba, Chairman, Christian Association of Nigeria, Khan, Kaduna State Chapter, Reverend John Joseph, and the Police Area Commander, Sabo Command, Mr. Musa, at the Police Emergency Security Meeting with Khan in Kaduna yesterday. You get to see a picture of that on the front page of the Vanguard newspaper. Quickly going through the pages of the Vanguard newspaper, we get to see, okay, let's start with this very story from the political pages of the Vanguard. Labour Party knows Obi lost 2023 polls, says Shoyinka. With the writer says they want to force lies on Nigerians. Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka yesterday alleged that the leadership of the Labour Party, LP, knew that its presidential candidate Peter Obi lost the February 25 election. And Soyinka accused the leadership of Labour Party of trying to force a lie on Nigerians, especially youth, that Obi won the election. You get the details of that in the Vanguard newspaper. Labour Party knows Obi lost 2023 polls, says Soyinka. Away from that, we also have on food security a report here that says WFP pledges $2.5 billion to fight hunger in Nigeria. With the writer says 2.1 million beneficiaries already captured. The World Food Programme, WFP, has pledged to support President Tinubu's Zero Hunger Program under the Federal Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. Country Director of WFP, David Stevenson, made the pledge when he led a team of the United Nations UN agency to visit the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation, Dr. Betta Edu, in her office. And it disclosed that 2.1 million Nigerians have already been captured as beneficiaries of the program, with the hope to expand working with the Minister of Humanitarian Affairs and Poverty Alleviation. On food security, WFP pledges $2.5 billion to fight hunger in Nigeria. And also on flood threats, we have a report that says, start moving communities to camps now, Rivers women tell government. As sea level in parts of the country begins to rise in view of the predicted 2023 flooding, women in Rivers State have called on the state government to start moving communities that would be affected by the disaster to safe grounds. And this came as Natural Justice Movement Nigeria staged a work on climate change and energy transition, calling on the state government for inclusivity in tackling the year's flooding. On flood threats, start moving communities to camps now, Rivers women tell government. And away from that, let's get to see what we have in the Nation newspaper this morning before we round it up. From the front page of the Nation newspaper, employers reject NLC's plan to shut down economy. This comes with double riders. You get to see the details right on page 2 in the Nation newspaper. Away from that, NEMA's alert, flood to pound 50 communities in 13 states. You also have that on page 3 in the Nation newspaper. NIMC moved to Interior Ministry to speed up passport issuance. Page 4 captures the details of that story. Tinubu, Abiodun and others felicitate Alake at 80. Page 3 has the details of that very story. And United States, China owe half of world's $235 trillion debt. You get the foreign story and update on page 4 in the Nation newspaper. Away from that, also from the front page of the Nation, battle rages over rector in Osun Poly. You get that on page 10 in the Nation. OAU okays new fees. You have that on page 20 in the Nation newspaper. And also from the front page, food, energy prices push inflation to highest level in 18 years. You have that on page 4 as well in the Nation newspaper. And also cooperates with lawmakers. Sanwo-Olu tells 37 commissioners and advisors. You have that page 5 in the Nation newspaper. And quickly going through The Nation newspaper. Let's start with employers rejecting NLC's order. Employers reject NLC's plan to shut down economy. This comes with several riders. The proposed strike by the Nigerian Labour Congress, NLC, will be counterproductive if it goes ahead, private employers of labor cautioned yesterday. According to them, the NLC should seek better opportunities for its members to cushion subsidy removal pain through dialogue with the government. The rest of that in the Nation newspaper. Employers reject NLC's plan to shut down economy. Away from that, you also have a report, an update right here that says food and energy prices push inflation to highest level in 18 years. Rising cost of foodstuffs, energy, logistics, and other living items have further eroded Nigerians' disposable incomes, thus pushing headline inflation rate to its highest level in 18 years. Economic intelligence reports by many finance and economic firms surveyed by the Nation yesterday indicated that inflation may rise by more than 100 basis points to above 25%, the 8th consecutive monthly increase and the highest since August 2005. And ahead of the release of the official inflation reports by the National Bureau of Statistics, NBS, independent consumer surveys and econometric models indicated that inflation remained on an upward trend. The rest of that in the Nation, food and energy prices push inflation to highest level in 18 years. Away from that, also from the Nation newspaper, we also have a report here on flooding that says 13 states, 50 communities likely to witness heavy rainfall and flooding. The National Emergency Management Agency, NEMA, has said 13 states and 50 communities, mostly in the north, are likely to witness heavy rainfall that may lead to flooding between September 13 and 17. NEMA's Lagos Territorial Coordinator, Mr. Ibrahim Fariloye, announced this in a statement yesterday in Lagos. 13 states, 50 communities likely to witness heavy rainfall and flooding. The Nation captures that story. And quickly moving to the sports pages of the Nation newspaper, we have a report that says Super Falcons Oparanoze retires from football at 29. Former Super Falcons captain Desire Oparanoze has announced official retirement from football at the age of 29 years. The Imo State-born star announced the end to her football career yesterday in a social media post. Super Falcons Oparanoze retires from football at 29. You get the details of that in the sport pages of the Nation newspaper. And also picking the story from the sports pages of the Nation newspaper. International friendly, Super Eagles to face Saudi's Green Falcons in Portugal. Nigeria and Saudi Arabia will clash in a senior international friendly match in the city of Portimao, Portugal on Friday, 13th October 2023. The clash comes barely a month before the three-time African champions who slashed Sao Tome and Principe 6-0 in their 2023 AFCON final day qualification game in Uyo on Sunday set out on the race for a place at the 2026 FIFA World Cup finals with a home game against the Crocodiles of Lesotho. Within the same FIFA window in November, the Eagles will play their second match of the qualification series away to the Warriors of Zimbabwe. The rest of that in the sport pages of the Nation newspaper. On international friendly, Super Eagles to face Saudi's Green Falcons in Portugal. And from that very story, we talk about this morning on Freshlight on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. So you can follow us on all social media platforms, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Al-IyamoyeTv and radio, on the X app at Iyamoye_TV. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel for more updates, and you get notification by turning on your alarm button. Thank you so much, and don't forget we can always advertise and take your product and services to the doorsteps of your target audience right on Al-IyamoyeTv and radio. I remain Modupe Akinyosoye. Good morning.